I'm here to talk about the TOP, which stands for the team, the offer, and the process. I come from a family business background, but a little before I get to that background, let me tell you about myself real quick. I'm a business consultant, I'm a podcaster. How many people know what a podcast is? Okay, that's pretty darn good compared to 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago when I got started. Most people would not know or be able to tell you what a podcast was or had ever even heard of the word, as such like my neighbors who are like, I've never heard anyone talk about this until you started one 3.5 years ago. I'm an author and a speaker. Obviously I'm here, I've written 3 books. I'm working on my 4th book, which is called Sales Won't Save Your Business. Focus on the Top, which the title of this talk is Focus on the Top. And it's just been an amazing ride since I left my family's business. It was a $100 million company called Pardo's Truck Service Parts warehouse. It was located out of Sewell, New Jersey. It was 11 locations, one of 5 businesses in my family that totaled the $100 million empire that I chose to walk away from in 2014. It took me 4 years to make that decision. I'm glad it took me 4 years because I learned so much in those last 4 years that it has helped me immensely through everything that I've accomplished since then. When I left, I actually started the Dreamers podcast. Just recently, I won 2017 Business Podcast of the Year from podcastawards.com. So I changed the name to The Business Podcast featuring Super Joe Pardo. I was going to do that regardless, but it just so happened that I actually won. I wasn't expecting to win. I actually thought someone else that had been on my show was going to win. I was very surprised. My show has been featured on entrepreneur.com. It has over 315 episodes. It's total for business owners. The content I've created is over 200 hours from YouTube videos with business lessons to the show. The show basically focuses around telling the story of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the world. So while there's 315 episodes, it's probably about 270 people that I've interviewed. Anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours to get their story. It's over 120,000 downloads. Like I said earlier, I'm an author. I've written 3 books that have been featured on Huffington Post, Entrepreneur.com, and FoxNews.com for business and lifestyle growth. They're basically, they're self-development books. With working on my 4th book, Sales Won't Save Your Business, Focus on the Top. That'll be out probably in a little over a month. I'm almost on the first draft right now. My books are short and to the point. I design them for people like me who don't like to read. I'm a slow reader, but I love to write. But I keep it to the short and to the point. So let's get to the team, right? So the TOP stands for Team, Offer, and Process. First, I want you to think about how you go about empowering your team, right? Are you taking the time to make sure that your people feel like they're useful and that they're needed and what they're doing is making a difference not only in the world as a whole, but in the world in which you live in, the business environment, the culture, coming to Rotary meetings, that type of stuff. But empowering your team to do the things that makes them really happy and finding the niche that they can really plug in themselves into to make themselves want to stay a lot longer and be happier. When in my family's business, most of the employees had been there an average of at least 10 years. A lot of them had been there as long as I had been alive from before the time that I had left. So how do you do that? The dirty C word, right? Does anyone know what that word is? Communication. That's the word that makes everything work a lot easier, smoother. I saw a lot of cringy faces. No one really thought communication would be the word that I was gonna.
I was thinking collaboration.
Collaboration. Well, and that comes right along with communicating, right? If you can't communicate, you're not going to collaborate.
I was thinking of commendation.
As a what?
Commendation.
Commendation. Like.
Rewarding people.
Oh, commendation. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like commending. Yeah. Well, and again, that if you can't communicate that, then it's not really going to go very far. So yeah, communicating to your team, communicating to your clients, communicating in a way that sets you up for the perception of your business to not only look good from the outside, but look good from the inside, right? You don't want your team to have a bad perception, because your clients are going to walk out with a bad perception as well, because it will rub off on them. They'll hear those little conversations that are going on between two employees behind the counter, or somewhere within your business. So communicating and making sure that you create a culture. Cultures can be created by accident. It does happen. It's not always good. It's really important to have a purpose based around that culture and based around that communication, so that everybody, when you're hiring people, one of the best advice that I got from over all of the people that I've interviewed was when they hire people, they ask for their resume, but their resume doesn't even matter if they don't answer the one question that they put out there. And the question that they ask is, tell me the story of the last time you made somebody smile. If you don't answer that question, which over like 70% don't even bother answering that question when they put in for with their resume, they don't even look at the resume. So, because they can't take direction, right? Like, they were given one task other than to give the resume, didn't do it. So creating a culture based around people that's like, look, you might not have the strongest resume, but you follow direction and you look at your story sounds cool. Like, let's give you an interview. Things like that, creating that opportunity for people to stand out outside of just what they've accomplished academically or even business-wise. So let's move on to the offer. What you have to offer for your clients and for your team as well, right? Because you're in a competitive market for great talent, and that's something that you have to be understanding of. It's not, people aren't just staying with you just for the sake of staying with you. In some cases that may be the truth, but you should want people to stay with you for your merits, not be out of necessity. So create an experience, right? When you're talking about an experience, you're not just talking about like, well, I'm an accountant or something where it's like, where it's just a service that I'm providing, or it's just a part that I'm selling you. The experience starts from outside the building, right? How is your sign looking? How is the landscaping looking? How are your trucks or your vehicles looking? Are they beat up? Should they be washed? The experience from when you come in, are all the lights all lit? Every bulb lit? You have to understand that you're creating that the experience as an entirety. And when you start to understand that from a perspective of somebody else's eyes, that's when you're going to be able to look at it from a vantage point that you being yourself and being in it every day is not going to accomplish, because you're just too close to the situation, right? You're too busy with like, well, I got this stack of papers I got to get taken care of, and I got to do this and this and this and this and this, and you're walking away from things that are like just so blatantly obvious, but they're degrading the experience of not only for your clients but for your team. So creating consistency. What's the number one reason that you come to a restaurant? Oh, I'm sorry?
Service.
No, you come to eat.
Come to eat well.
Consistency. Every time I order that same meal, it's going to come out the same way. That's the number one thing. So you have to create that consistency within your business. When the client deals with you, they need to understand that the process that they're going to go through is the same today as it's going to be tomorrow, as it's going to be the next day. And that process might be as simple as coming in, buying one piece of something, and walking out. But it's the same, it's consistent, it's predictable. To get the best experience and the best offer that you can give, you need to know all your numbers. Not just the obvious, the revenue, the profit, blah, 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 but even creating numbers, key performance indicators, which is a word. I say next gen stats because I like sports on anybody else who does, but those numbers, like how long does it take a person to walk from this side to that side of the warehouse to pick parts, and how you can optimize that process of like, okay, well, if it's always in this order, like let's restructure that order, right? Let's take that time to figure out what's needed to make this happen, to save, if you're doing something 100 times a day and you save 3 seconds, you should save 300 seconds a person, times a week, times a month, times a year. Like those little things are what's going to generate savings, create a better experience, and hopefully make a lot more people happy. So knowing those numbers is super important, and utilizing technology. It's something that, like, okay, so I know it's 2017, and it, you know, but when I was coming up, you know, 2004, 2005, 2006, utilizing technology was not like a thing that most people were trying to, you know, to do. A lot of businesses were stuck still. Because I remember it was only like 2010. I went to a place that sold like we sold big truck parts, like big rig truck, but this was like a place that sold like F250 and F150 kind of parts, and they were still like looking like, oh, I want to buy I think it was like a lock for like a ball lock. And they're like, oh, let me look up the price. So they're pulling out the price sheet and like looking up the price and then writing it down on a tablet. And I'm like, wow, this is terrible. I would not be surprised at that place. I mean, they're still open today, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were still doing the same thing. So, you know, getting out of your comfort zone, understanding the value that it's bringing to your business by knowing all those numbers and creating that better experience, and that where I don't have to sit there and wait 20 minutes to buy one thing that I could have just walked into any other store probably that sells it and walk in and walk out. So, you know, don't be afraid of technology. So that brings me to process. The word predictable, creating predictable processes. Even if you don't know what, you have to create a process when there's unknown unknowns, things that you don't know that are going to happen, right? And how to go about handling them so they don't just get filed in a drawer. Like, oh, we don't know what to do with these. Well, it just gets filed in this drawer, and someday we'll come back to it. And then before you know, you have a drawer full of like the things that didn't happen, all the things that fell through the cracks. So creating a predictable process so that there's a way for those types of things can be handled. And then, you know, increase your profitability. Like I talked about the example before, optimizing how your routes are set up even inside of your business. Optimizing, you know, where the layout is of items sold in the business. Like when you go to the supermarket and you know, why is there gum? It's a high profit item and it's right there. It's easy to grab, right? Little things like that will make a huge difference, because the other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is and it goes back to knowing your numbers as well, which is making sure that your sales diversity is there so that you're not constantly just selling all the lowest profit items all the time and that's it, right? Understanding your numbers to the point where you can get see the vision of like, well, how can we value add to this so that we can grow our profit margin as well. So I'm Super Joe Pardo, superjoepardo.com, the business podcast. Like I said, it was just rebranded like a week ago, actually. So is there any questions that I could answer?
When was the last time you made somebody smile?
I think last night, because we had a good time with Kevin, right?
There was collusion involved.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see nothing. I hit my ball and this, you know, the strokes got counted.